Oh, we should sing a grace. Should we sing Amazing? What should we sing? Let's sing. We should be singing some hymn. Come on. Anybody got a little tune? No. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. More together more often. That was a beautiful way that was a beautiful way to begin. I am so honored that you're here tonight. It was a gift that this lady on my left, and if you don't know who she is, we all know who she is, right? Eleanor, called me, I can't remember how many weeks ago, and said, Christy, would you please open up your home so that we can debut the 7th? Am I right?
Yes, one to go.
Seventh? Say what it is.
Seventh volume in the Merton series of world religions, basically. Yes.
Imagine. But the thing I'm most fascinated about is the spiritual health, of course, aspect, and in particular fascinated about how we have an entire U.S. society who doesn't believe that anything weird is happening with the climate. And the thing that's interesting to me about that is what role did the evolution of Christianity play in eliminating the indigenous people's knowledge of the interconnection between the elements and our human and natural health. So thank you for being here.
Introduce Jonathan Montaldo, who is the editor of the entire Merton series. And I mean, how can you introduce Jonathan? He's the one that was chosen to edit all of Merton's journals by Harper and Row and did the Intimate Merton, been the head of the International Merton Society, and he's been the series editor for all of these volumes, and we are so lucky he came into town just to speak to you. Jonathan.
If You Knew by Ellen Bass. What if you knew you'd be the last person to touch someone? If you were taking tickets, for example, at the theater, tearing them, giving back the ragged stubs, you might take care to touch that palm. Brush your fingertips along the lifeline's crease. When a man pulls his wheeled suitcase too slowly through the airport, when the car in front of me doesn't signal, when the clerk at the pharmacy won't say thank you, I don't remember they're going to die. A friend told me she'd been with her aunt. They just had lunch, and the waiter, a young gay man with plum black eyes, joked as he served the coffee, kissed her aunt's powdered cheek when they left. Then they walked half a block, and her aunt dropped dead on the sidewalk. How close does the dragon's spume have to come? How wide the crack in heaven have to split? What would people look like if we could see them as they are, soaked in honey, stung and swollen, reckless, pinned against time? Concerning, as Thomas Merton called it, the spiritual genius of the American indigenous peoples. So open your purse and join us in aspirational solidarity with indigenous traditions of religious imagination and their longings for the holy. It's a chance to learn another sacred way to live, the only lives we'll ever live in these temporary bodies.
Merton's correspondence with poets, activists, anthropologists, and historians familiar with and sensitive to the plight of indigenous peoples stoked the flames of Merton's prophetic ire against the unjust and inhumane treatment of indigenous peoples and their natural habitats. These dialogues contributed to his sympathetic understanding of the many cultural and spiritual riches of native peoples, capital N, capital P, to which most European immigrants and subsequent Americans had been blind and deaf. Merton appears to have quickly grasped the inner spiritual dynamics and even mystical experiences of Native Americans, owing to his extensive study of religious experience in many traditions. His own experiences and his widening understanding of the meaning and manifestations of natural contemplation bolstered his awareness of the immanent presence and creativity of the divine in the natural world. It's a wonderful book. I hope you will read it.
Christy, thank you. Eleanor, thank you.
Up a step.
The sheer joy of working on this book was working with Jonathan, who knows more about Merton, perhaps, his life and work than Merton himself did. And with Anne, who's indefatigable and fearless in the face of serial comments.
And things have been busy, and I delayed, and it got more and more urgent. And so eventually I had to sit down and read the book. And that was a real blessing. It is quite an extraordinary book, which I really commend to you. And as I was reading it, the thing that really struck me was that through the course of the book, we really hear Merton's historical voice, his spiritual voice, and his prophetic voice. That we hear his historical voice educating us about the First Nations peoples. And certainly for myself, as a foreigner here, that was quite an education for me. That wasn't my own background. And then we hear his spiritual voice, of course, seeking out that spirituality among these peoples and stirring our consciences about how they were treated. And then we hear his prophetic voice, as always, calling us to action. In particular, I think, in our current age, reminding us of our relationship to Mother Earth, which was something that was so central to these indigenous peoples. So Gray suggested that I just read the blurb that I ended up writing, so bear with me. Merton and Indigenous Wisdom, like the other volumes in the Fons Vitae Thomas Merton series, once more demonstrates the incisive, boundless enthusiasm of Merton for the divine fullness of our human condition in all its glorious manifestations. Merton's breathtaking openness to other cultures and traditions, so evident in this volume, along with his all-embracing universal vision and wisdom, encourages us all to be, like him, builders of bridges, not walls. So with this wonderful gift to us all in this book, perhaps we can conclude, I think I'm concluding, am I? Yes. By a final song. And next Friday is the 31st of January, so we'll mark Merton's 105th birthday. It doesn't seem like yesterday that he turned 100. So this wonderful book series, I think, has been a gift to us all, and I'm sure Merton would appreciate it as a gift from him and a gift to him as well. I'm not a good singer, so maybe the person who started Amazing Grace would lead us in Happy Birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to